iZombie Season 2, Episode 7, Abra Cadaver. Now, I really like what they did with the magic in this episode because it, of course, like pretty much everything, any brain that Liv eats, it kind of automatically provides for some form of comedy. But I liked what they did in this one because there was a lot of silly stuff that happened. They did, of course, just Liv in general being like about the magician stuff was really funny. Ravi being such a nerd about magicians, I thought was pretty funny because we know that he's sort of a nerdy character. He has like, he makes all the Star Wars references and stuff like that. But him being like so deeply involved in wizardry and stuff like that, I thought was surprising and funny. And then they had a really good scene when Clive actually got his watch stolen. I liked that scene because it was funny. Like, it started off really cool because it's like the kid couldn't get him, as far as like, hiding the ace from him and everything. And it's like, I grew up in Brooklyn, like, and we don't play in Brooklyn. And I was like, that was kind of funny. And then it ends where he actually got his watch stolen, and I was like, oh, well, that's also kind of funny. I kind of sucked that they didn't have a scene where he got his watch back. I was like, that kind of sucked. Like, I was hoping that he'd just see him somewhere around the convention and he'd actually get his watch back. But I like the way they played the characters because everyone hated the person that they found dead, and then every time it was like, I took his brain out of his body. It's like, sure you did. And it was just like really funny to me. Like, no one thought that this guy was actually dead just because of who he was. And I thought that was actually really silly how they did it. And then each suspect was like, there was some weird little twist on it. And it's like, okay, well, the first woman, they thought that, she could have done it because they broke up and everything. And we find out like they were together, and then the guy got like super, super into like the crazy dark side of things and talking about death and doom and gloom and all this stuff. And that's when they broke up. And it was pretty much as simple as that. And it was just, and she was like super sarcastic about it, and also him dying. It was just like, probably, I doubt he's actually dead. Just silly stuff. And I enjoyed that. I thought it was cool. They always have it where, Liv is the silly one, but I think in this they were able to kind of spread it out a little because everyone is just like, with them all being magicians, everyone's able to be very different and sarcastic. Because normally it's just like somebody died, and everyone's just like, well, this happened or that happened. But when it was like a magician thing, and the cards are made out of metal, it's like, well, everybody has that. Like, that's not, that's nothing different, and just everyone has a unique experience with the guy. All the experiences suck, but at the same time, it was pretty different. I like the fact that, of course, they made the guy who died totally look like Chris Angel. Everybody does that because it's always Chris Angel. So they did the Chris Angel thing. They even did a Penn and Teller thing, which I wasn't expecting. That was actually kind of awesome. And also, I guess it would be Teller is the one that was the one. I guess it was Meek. It was Smoke and Mirrors or something like that. I can't even remember, to be totally honest. Smoke and Mirrors, that's what it was. So Mirrors was the one that actually got busted. Turns out that Mirrors was not a guy, and was actually a girl the whole time, which personally I couldn't figure out until they did it at the end. Or, once they did the whole thing, it's like, oh, it's, the thing that you're really looking for is probably like right in front of you the whole time. So once that was the case, and they actually went to them, I was like, all right, well, I know exactly who it is. Another little twist is that they were actually both working together. It wasn't just Mirrors; it was actually Smoke as well. So that was a little shock. Like the last second little thing, I was like, oh, they were actually working together. It wasn't just Mirrors. So that was actually kind of cool. It was like, okay, they actually worked as a team, and they killed a guy. So not exactly good, but they did work as a team, and that was a nice little twist there. But it was pretty cool. I enjoyed the main story. Had its funny moments for sure. The side story was actually pretty much Blaine and Liv kind of working together. We get them basically hiding things from Clive, and them changing the FBI records and stuff, changing it to, of course, cow brains. That's what everyone's changing it to. So they changed it to cow brains, kind of throw them off the scent. I'm sure things will come back around somehow. I'm not sure what's going to happen, but it'll come back around. Eventually, it's going to come back around. He'll either run into Blaine, or something's going to happen with Major. Who knows? But Clive is going to get the information he needs to kind of get a bit closer to the whole zombie thing. Will he find out? I don't know 100%, but we'll see how that works. One of the other little side stories, because there were a lot of side stories actually. This episode actually had like multiple, like quite a few different stories in it, because we had the main story, and then we have like the Liv Blaine thing, which wasn't exactly a big chunk of the episode. It was like the scene of them in the car, and then the scene of them at the house. I believe were the only two scenes they were actually even together. They didn't even show them. Oddly enough, they didn't actually show them together at the funeral home. But we did have Ravi kind of dealing with his seemingly obsessive girlfriend, and he didn't like it. He just thought things were going fast. It wasn't that she was really obsessive, but he just felt she was taking things too far and planning stuff like too far ahead. So, he dumps her. He also tries to kiss Peyton because he still has feelings for her, and that was not the best decision because she's kind of like, oh, that's not exactly what's happening. So he gets embarrassed, and that just doesn't really work out too well for them. And of course, she kind of mentions, she's at least about to mention, like, oh, she kind of met someone that she's at least interested in, and she even has Blaine's number now. So whatever's going to happen there's going to happen. And that could also be the way that Clive ends up running into Blaine. Because at this point, there are a couple of weird relationships that people don't know about. And the next episode actually addresses one, and that's Liv's roommate. And I don't know what her actual name is, I can't remember, but her roommate having slept with Major, that's one of, I can't say relationship, but it is at least a working relationship, and they've done it. So that's one of the little secret things that's happening. And then, this is kind of the other one is Peyton and, Blaine at least getting to know each other. So that could be how that happens, where they do some sort of weird group date or whatever, and then it's like, oh crap, here's Clive, and here's Blaine, who's exactly who Clive has been looking for all this time. So that could be how they do it. Might not be how they do it, just guessing right now. But I like how they kind of messed around with that. They have that little bit of chemistry kind of building up. And even Peyton mentions in this episode that because Stacey Boss knew that the information was kind of out of date, that he might be able to track that back to, okay, these are the couple of people, and Blaine would be on that list. So I like the fact that they even bothered to mention that, because she could have just been like, oh, he visited me, and that was pretty much it. So that's it. But she does specifically say, like, he knows our info's out of date, so that could put you on a pretty short list. And I thought that was actually kind of awesome that they talk about it specifically as why she was there. Like, this is why you need to really know. He came after me, and he said that stuff was out of date. So that was pretty cool. Nice little reference back. Like, that's a good thing to tell someone. Like, if he knows that it's out of date, you make a list of people who left your employment 2 years ago. So the big villain's about to do that. You should probably tell at least the person that could be on that list. So that was pretty cool. Like I said, the comedy, of course, definitely silly. All the magic stuff was good. Liv doing the little card tricks and being somewhat depressing actually kind of played into, mostly the depressing part. The magic tricks were kind of just like, throughout. But the depressing thing kind of played into the other mini storyline, which is, in this episode, Major's kind of just trying to figure out how to make things work. And, they start off in the beginning of this episode where I'm assuming they just did some hand stuff in the bed, because they didn't specify anything, but I'm like, well, they can't do it, of course, but I'm kind of assuming some hand stuff went down just now. So I'm guessing that that's what they were doing in the bed. But the rest of the episode is kind of him dealing with, and I think it's just the fact that it was such a dark brain that she had, and it's like doom and this and that and stuff like that. So that may have been the main reason it was an issue. And by the end of the episode, she's doing like some weird spiritual ritual and stuff, and it kind of put him off a little bit. So I think it was really just this episode because of the brain she happened to eat. But he's kind of trying to figure out, like, how extreme are her mood swings when she eats brains and stuff like that. So it was a minor part. Like, pretty much all the other side storylines, because there were like 3 or 4 of them in this episode, were pretty small, and they were technically only like a couple of scenes. But there was still more than just one side storyline, which I thought was pretty cool. And I'm really looking forward to the next episode, because the next one is going to touch on like one of the big storylines, And I'm looking forward to that. I can't wait to see her figure this out. She might not actually figure it out 100%, but it should be interesting. Like, Liv has, like, the jealous girl brain, and technically, she is getting closer to one of the secrets, because she does find out the real name, of her roommate, even though she doesn't know that, which might be Rita. Rita might be her name. It could be totally wrong, but I'm just going to go with Rita. But I'm looking forward to that. I don't know, like I said, I don't know if it'll actually come out that, like, holy crap, this person, my roommate, my secret roommate is actually working for Max Rager, or Max Rager. Max Wager is one of the episode names. But I'm really looking forward to that one. This is definitely a fun episode that, it didn't really touch on any of the main plot points of the storyline, which I'm kind of okay with because it was just a good episode. And I didn't even really think of that while I was watching it, and I went through because I'm so far behind, I was trying to remember, so I had to read a review, and I normally don't do that. It's so rare that I read or watch a review before I do mine, because I don't want any of the influences, because I probably wouldn't have even mentioned that they don't do the main storyline in this episode, which they kind of do technically, because they have the fake DNA test and everything, and they have to fake that up with, or Liv fakes it up and everything. So technically they kind of do, because it kind of chops something off, but they've done that before where they've had minor, things that seem like they should be really big deals, and they'd be like minor stuff. So it's not, it's really no different to me. Seemingly it's no different. But I still enjoyed this episode, but I am really looking forward to this next one, because I was kind of waiting. That's like the big thing I really want to see, to be totally honest. Out of everything that's kind of happened, that's the big thing that I'm looking forward to. And one thing they really haven't talked about is the fact that there's really like none of the cure anymore. They don't really have that much of that left, if any, because I'm not sure if Ravi used all of it 100%, but they don't have any more of that. And I think I mentioned this in that episode. I thought it was really dumb that Blaine killed that guy, or let him kill himself. I can't even remember how that guy died now, but I think Blaine killed him. Or, no, he took the, that's what it was. He took the serum, and it wasn't 100% yet. But it was like, man, Blaine really should have let him, or shouldn't have let him do that in case it didn't work, because this is the only guy who could possibly find a cure. And it was just like, that was dumb. And they haven't really touched on that. Like, even since that episode, they haven't mentioned, like, that's the guy who did it, and we don't know how he did it. And they might, but they haven't said whether or not they did. I guess they would, because it would be even stupider to be like, all right, you do this, and I'm not going to even remotely try to remember how it happened. So maybe they do actually know, but they just haven't done anything just yet. But either way, love this episode. That was a nice, funny one. Love the magic tricks, and the surprise of Ravi getting even nerdier in this episode is a nice surprise for me, because I always get his references, like the Star Wars stuff. Of course, I love that, so that's always really fun. But want to know what you guys thought about this episode, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts, and I want to know what you guys think is going to get Clive back on track towards finding Blaine and figuring out exactly what happened at the meet cute. Because at this point, they have the fake DNA test. They could try to do it again, or something. I don't know exactly how, what they could do as far as the DNA test, if they think it's, bovine brains. I don't know what else they could possibly kind of come up with as far as testing, but there's going to be something there. So I want to know your speculations. I don't know what to think, because they're kind of at a dead end right now, outside of just the random date thing with Peyton and Blaine. If they just randomly all did a big group date, that's the only speculation I can honestly have. And that would be a huge leap, which would be awesome. Like, it skips all the clues, and it's like, that's the guy I've been looking for. That's about as good as it's going to get. Granted, he's human now, so I don't know. It wouldn't even change anything. He still did the stuff, so there's still a lot of questions. But I want to know your speculation, so please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.